What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Collective MMA channel. I am back with episode 13 of Fight IQ, breaking down UFC 330 going down this Saturday in Philadelphia. So be sure to hit that like, hit that subscribe, and let's jump right on into it. With the first fight of the night, we have Jeremiah Wells versus Myktybek Orolbai. We have Wells coming in at plus 600 and Orolbai coming in at minus 1,000. On the Wells side, he's like a decent striker. He'll throw some straights, leg kicks. He'll blitz in. Got some pretty good grappling. Works back to the feet if he's taken down. He'll get the cage push going, decent takedowns. He'll attack some submissions, and he's got some front chokes as well. But then on the Orolbai side, like, he's also a decent striker, mixes it up, mainly striking to set up his takedowns, and he's got some really good wrestling and grappling. Good variety of takedowns, mat returns. He's opportunistic with the back takes, good top control, and he's got good ground and pound. Yeah, and this one, I think Orolbai gets this one done by later finish. Although Wells has some pretty good grappling, Orolbai's wrestling, I think, is just going to be too much here, and he's got the gas tank to, use that, even if his opponent is giving him some trouble and trying to stuff it. He's gonna be able to win minutes here, and I think eventually set up a finish, whether it's a TKO or a submission. He's just relentless with the takedowns and grappling approach, and I think he's going to be able to do whatever he wants in this one. So I like Orolbai, and I like Orolbai by finish. As far as a bet, Orolbai inside the distance minus 175 would be an angle I would look at. So we will keep on moving. Next up, we have Neil Magny versus Ramiz Brahimaj. We have Neil Magny coming in at plus 125 and Brahimaj at minus 145. This is a tough one. This one definitely makes me nervous a little bit. But on the Brahimaj side, he's a decent striker. He's improving over his last couple fights. He definitely has shown some improvement. Decent power, variety of kicks. He mixes up his targets, mainly striking to set up his grappling game. He does have solid grappling, attacks subs. He's got a pretty good sub arsenal. He's active from bottom position. He's got a good guillotine and front chokes. He does work back to the feet if he's taken down. He's got some decent takedown defense of his own. He's got pretty good ground and pound. He's opportunistic with the back takes, cage push. He can also get stuck against the cage. And he's got pretty good level changes. And then on the Magny side, like, he's a good striker. He works the jab. He's got a variety of kicks, long straights, pretty good grappling, okay takedown defense. He can get backed up. He also likes to work the cage push. He's got decent takedowns of his own and pretty good subs and top control. In this one, I'm going to lean towards Brahimaj and Brahimaj by finish. Magny is a crafty vet, but he's obviously closer to the end than to the beginning at this point. And, Neil Magny, in a lot of his fights, he kind of ends up, loses round 1 and 2 and then ends up coming back and gets a, miraculous comeback finish. And I just don't, at some point that's going to end. And, in his fight against Jake Matthews, that fight was definitely interesting. The fact that the ref stopped it early and then the fight continued. And, in his last fight, he got, taken down and dominated by Amasov. And Amasov is very good as well. But yeah, I think Brahimaj is going to be able to get his grappling going, take Magny down to the mat. And I'm going to lean towards submission, could be TKO. But yeah, this is definitely going to be the hardest opponent that Brahimaj has fought up to this point. And, in his last fight, he lost a decision to Puna Soriano. But before that, he's on a 3-fight winning streak, knocking out Mickey Gall and then submitting Billy Ray Goff and Austin Vanderford back-to-back with the guillotines. I think he's going to be able to get this fight to the mat and get his submission game going. So as far as a bet on this one, an angle I would look at is just Brahimaj straight up on the money line at minus 127. That could definitely be worth a look. But like I said, it's an interesting fight. Kind of makes me nervous. If Brahimaj doesn't get him out of there in the first 7.5, 8 minutes, Magny, could start to take over and pull out another crafty comeback win out of his back pocket. So We'll keep on moving. Next up, we got Rafael Tobias versus Lucas Fernando. We have Lucas Fernando at minus 294 and Rafael Tobias at plus 240. This is an interesting one, you know. You got Fernando here making his UFC debut. Fought in the Contender Series a couple of years ago against Cesar Almeida, and this dude's been ripping it up in the LFA. And then on the Tobias side, you know, he's making his second appearance here in the UFC. He won a Contender Series, and then in his debut fight, he lost a decision to Dr. Nurgaje. On the Tobias side, like, he's a decent striker, you know, nothing too crazy. He'll work the jab, some teeps, throw some combos, pressure, decent power of his own. He's mainly looking to grapple, you know. He's opportunistic with the back takes. He does better as the hammer rather than when he's backing up. He'll cage push. He's got decent takedowns, pretty good grappling, and a decent sub arsenal. In his last fight in the UFC against Nurgaje, he actually went for a Solowev stretch right at the end of the fight and almost got it. Again, that's also against Dr. Nurgaje. And then on the Fernando side, like, this guy's a pretty good striker, you know, heavy leg kicks, pressure, good combos. He can reverse takedowns, which I like. He's got some pretty good fight IQ, good counters, long straights, variety of kicks. He mixes up the targets and strikes, killer instinct, good power. He's got decent takedowns of his own, cage push, and he's opportunistic with the back takes. Has okay takedown defense, and that's kind of going to be, you know, one of the big pieces in this fight is if he's able to keep the fight on the feet and set the takedowns from Tobias. I think he's going to make this one look relatively easy. But if Tobias is able to get him down, now this one becomes a pretty good, you know, pretty good competitive fight. But I like Fernando in this one. I think he gets one to my knockout. He's going to have a solid striking edge in this one, and he's capable in the wrestling and the grappling, or I think he'll be capable enough. And yeah, I just don't see a whole lot of a path here for Tobias unless he's able to, you know, either land a perfect punch on the feet or implement his grappling game. So yeah, I think Fernando gets this one done early. As far as a bet, I think Fernando by KO at plus 148 would be worth a look. Yeah, I do think the straight up money line, you know, is a little bit wide just because, you know, it's Fernando's debut and sometimes weird things happen in guys' UFC debuts. But yeah, I think he's going to be the much better striker in this one. And I think he's going to get this one done by knockout. So we will keep on moving. Next up, we have Vicente Luque versus Tresean Gore. We have Vicente Luque at minus 105 and Tresean Gore at minus 115. This one, you know, starting off on the Luque side, like, he's a pretty good striker, and you know, he mixes up his strikes and targets. He's got some good movement, leg kicks, timing, some basic combos, very solid grappling, very solid front chokes and submissions, especially the anaconda and the darce. Decent takedown defense and scrambles, and he works back to the feet if taken down. And he's got some pretty good ground and pound of his own. And then on the Gore side, like, he's also a pretty good striker. Got some pretty good power, hard leg kicks, basic combos. He's athletic, pretty good takedown defense, pretty good grappling, very nasty guillotine. He also does much better when he is moving forward rather than backing up. This is another interesting one. Like, you know, I'm going to lean towards Gore getting this one done by knockout or by 29-28 decision. I just think he's going to be able to impose his game on Luque and, you know, back him up and stuff the takedowns and keep this one on the feet. Luque has a pretty suspect chin, and Gore does hit pretty hard. But, you know, Luque is going to be the most, you know, overall well-rounded fighter that Gore has ever fought. And he's really going to have to be on his P's and Q's here. If Gore is getting backed up and Luque is able to implement his game, this fight likely plays out close. So yeah, you know, maybe a live betting opportunity could be looking this one, or yeah, forced to play it. I'd probably lean towards Gore on the money line. But you know, Luque is a crafty vet, and you know, has a lot of experience, has a lot of high level experience. So this is not going to be an easy fight for Gore by any means. So yeah, I'm going to lean towards Gore, but not sure if I end up playing this one. We will keep on moving. Next up, we have Donte Johnson versus Eric McConico. We have Donte Johnson at minus 290 and Eric McConico at plus 237. This is another interesting one. On the Johnson side, like he's a pretty good striker. He's athletic, throws a lot of power shots. He's got some decent power. Not the most technical approach by any means from what we've seen, especially in that last fight of his against Brundage. And yeah, he's a little bit hittable. He can go for takedowns of his own. Doesn't have the best takedown defense. He's definitely a little bit on the greener side of MMA. Doesn't offer much when it comes to bottom position. Decent top control, and he's got a bit of a questionable gas tank. On the McConico side, he's a decent striker, good body kick, basic combos. He's a decent grappler, solid rear naked choke, mixes up his strikes and targets, back takes, decent takedown defense. He'll get the cage push going, and then he'll look to work the dirty boxing and knees from there. This is one where I kind of wanted to get the dog in this one, but after watching more tape, it's going to be hard for me to get there. Like I said, both of these guys have went to a split decision with Brundage, and that was Johnson's last fight where he went to a split decision. Before that, Johnson steamrolled Dumas, and that was his debut in the UFC. And yeah, on the McConico side, kind of been a 50-50 fighter in the UFC. Has had some mixed results. And yeah, Johnson recently moved to Extreme Couture, and he is training with, likes of Strawn Strickland and those guys from that gym, Chris Curtis. So I like that for him a lot here. I think that's really going to be able for him to sharpen his game, sharpen his footwork, and, just kind of abilities in general. And yeah, I just think his power and athleticism is probably going to be enough for him to get this one done. I think he probably gets this one done early. If he doesn't, McConico is definitely live to make this one a fight. So I think the straight up money line's a bit wide. I probably wouldn't be parlaying Johnson just because he's a little bit green. He's also quite small for the weight class as well. So yeah, I think as far as an angle on this one, could look at Johnson by KO at plus 125, just straight up, or you could look at Johnson KO 1, Johnson KO 2, something like that could be worth a look as well. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with this one. Yeah, we will keep on moving. Next up, we have Charles Johnson versus Eduardo Chapolin. Chapolin also goes by Henrique de Silva. So, keep that in mind. Some apps have him on different names. And yeah, this is a short notice fight. Charles Johnson was supposed to fight Jose Ochoa, and he had to pull out. So in steps Eduardo Chapolin. He fought on last season's episode or series of The Ultimate Fighter. He ended up losing in his first fight to Joseph Morales. And then he fought in the Contender Series, won his fight, and this is his first fight in the UFC. And yeah, you know what? In the last fight, I was leaning towards, or in the previous fight, I was leaning towards Ochoa getting it done. And then, in this one, I think this is a good spot for Chapolin here. He's a pretty good striker, pressure, combos, dynamic attack, some pretty good power. He mixes up his targets and strikes. He's a decent grappler that has been improving in that area of his game, training with Daniel Cormier there. And, he counters pretty well, pretty good takedown defense. He works back to his feet if he's taken down. He's got some decent takedowns of his own. Sometimes he is submission over position, and he tends to rush it a bit and lose position. But I think that's something that he can definitely work on. And, training with DC, I like that a lot for him. And on the Johnson side, he's a pretty good striker, mixes up his targets and strikes, throws a lot of leg and teep kicks, pretty good power, not the most defensively sound. He's got all right takedown defense. He will look to work back to his feet if he's taken down, and he is willing to back up. And, in this one, I just think, Johnson, he's just hard to trust. And I just think he's, the wheels are starting to fall off a bit. Typically he comes out and doesn't really do a whole lot in round one and tends to kind of throw away round one and then look to come back. But, it's tough, man, especially in a 3-round fight. Like, all it takes is one moment, and now you lost round 2 or you lost round 3, and then you end up losing a unanimous decision. And in his last fight, Johnson, he fought Asu Almabayev, was getting taken down a whole bunch, and then ended up getting submitted in round 3. Before that, he fought Bruno Silva, went to a split decision that probably could have gone either way. Before that, he fought Alex Perez and got knocked out in round 1. And all those 3 fights were in the last 6 months. So I like the activity, but I just think this guy's past it. And, Chapolin stepping in here on short notice, this fight also, it's listed at flyweight, or sorry, it's listed at catchweight now. So yeah, I think this one's probably going to be 130 or something like that. And I think that definitely favors Chapolin, who's going to be the one who, is more likely to look to grapple here. And whether he's looking to grapple or whether he's looking to strike, I think he gets this one done. I think it's going to be close on the feet. And you know what? He throws, some pretty good heat in his punches, has some nice knockouts in the LFA. So yeah, I think Henrique's going to get this one done by decision. Yeah, I think he's going to be the one moving forward, which is going to, look good, especially in the judge's eyes. And, also, yeah, like I mentioned, he has the opportunity to mix in the grappling. And yeah, Johnson is just hard to trust at the best of times. So I think Henrique here on the money line would be a solid bet. I'm seeing plus 127 is the best price right now. So do your line shopping. But I think this is a good chance to fade Charles Johnson and take a, well-rounded fighter who is training with a good team and can get this one done in a variety of ways. So yeah, I like Chapolin here, straight up on the money line as the underdog. So we will keep on moving. Next up, we have Chidi and Njokuani versus Yoel Alvarez. We have Joel Alvarez at minus 322 and Chidi and Njokuani at plus 261. This is an interesting one. Alvarez also taking this one on short notice. And on the Njokuani side, this guy's a good striker, good Muay Thai base, good leg and teep kicks. He is willing to back up, which I don't like as much. He has got pretty good elbows, good clinch knees. He's durable, decent takedown defense, and he does work back to the feet if he's taken down. And then on the Alvarez side, good striker as well, works the jab, basic combos, teeps. He's got some dynamic attacks, pretty good grappling, good ground and pound, attacks subs and front chokes. I think Alvarez stepping in here on short notice, I think he was in camp and, this is a fight that he, likes the stylistic matchup and thinks this is a good fight for him. He's very good and he Njokuani is going to have a three-inch reach advantage in this one, but you know what? I think Alvarez is going to be able to find a way to, make this fight competitive on the feet, maybe even be winning on the feet, and he'll be able to implement his grappling and wrestling attack as well. Yeah, I think he's going to get this one done by finish. Yeah, I think, like I said, the striking is going to be close, and I just think Alvarez is going to have a nice edge on the Grant mat. Njokuani has questionable fight IQ at the best of times, and yeah, I think this is a good matchup for Alvarez. I think he can, do what he wants here. He's going to be the one pressuring, and yeah, I think he gets one done. As far as a bet or an angle, I like Alvarez inside the distance at minus 130. I think he gets this one done and shows out in this one. So we will keep on moving. Next up, we got Edson Barboza versus Esteban Ribovics. We have Ribovics at minus 650 and Barboza at plus 477. On the Barboza side, he's a pretty good striker, pretty good power, combos, variety of kicks, really good kicker, good knees, decent grappler, and decent takedown defense. And then on the Ribovics side, good striker, is a bit hittable, but, he is durable, good combos, mixes up his strikes and targets, good cardio, good volume. And you know what? This is one where if we saw Barboza fighting Ribovics, in Barboza's prime, I think this could be one hell of a fight. But at this stage in his career, you know what? I think this is a very tough matchup, and Ribovics is just going to be a lot for him here. In Barboza's last fight, fought Jalin Turner, got knocked out in the first round, didn't look all that great. Before that, lost the unanimous decision to Drakkar Close. Before that, loses a unanimous decision to Lerone Murphy, so he's on a 3-fight skid. And then on the Ribovics side, in his last fight, lost to Matisse Gamrot. Obviously, totally different matchup. That guy's a grappler. Before that, he won a clean decision against Elvis Brenner. Before that, lost a split against Nasrat Hakparast. Before that, he won a split against Daniel Zellhuber. I just think Ribovics is going to be too much for him here. Like I said, if this was prime Barboza, I think this is probably a sick fight, and it could be for as long as it lasts. But yeah, I think Ribovics is going to get this one done by knockout. Barboza's taking a lot of damage. You can just see it like in his face, like he's just taking a lot of damage. And I just think the pace and the volume from Ribovics is just going to be too much, and he's going to break him at some point. So yeah, I like Ribovics by knockout, and that would be the angle as well. I see the knockout at around -155. I think that would be worth a look as well. So we will keep on moving. Next up, we got Mansur Abdul-Malik versus Dustin Stoltzfus. We have Mansur Abdul-Malik at -650 and Dustin Stoltzfus at +477. On the Malik side, like, he's a pretty good striker, pressure. He's athletic, good ground and pound, good grappling. He's got some good trips and slams as well. On the Stoltzfus side, he's also a pretty good striker, decent power, some decent kicks. He's a pretty good grappler, decent takedowns, and he does attack subs. This one, I think Malik gets it done by knockout. I think Malik losing his last fight is going to be a good thing for him. He was going up against UC Belgarui, who is a massive kickboxer, and a totally different matchup for him in this one. And before that, he had been, finished Antonio Tricoli, finished Cody Brunninger, but there was actually a headbutt, so it ended up being a draw. And then he also finished Nick Klein. Before that, Dusko Todorovic. And then on the Stoltzfus side, he's on a 2-fight losing streak, losing to Gastelum and Ruziboev, both by decision. Before that, beat Marc-Andre Barrio. And before that, lost to Bruno Ferreira, got knocked out. Yeah, you know what? Stoltzfus has come through as an underdog, a fair amount of times, but I just don't think this is going to be a very great matchup for him. He's not going to be able to, or at least I don't see him getting takedowns. Malik's going to have a, sizable reach advantage in this one, and he's just going to be the much more powerful guy. So I think he gets the one done by knockout. Yeah. It's an interesting one, and I don't know if Malik is really all of that, to be honest, but I think the UFC, they're trying to build him, and this is a favorable matchup for him. They're trying to, build some hype for him after, taking a loss in his last one. So yeah, Malik by knockout. See the Malik knockout at +113. I think that would definitely be worth a look for this fight. So we will keep on moving. Next up, we have Jalin Turner versus Kaue Fernandez. We have Jalin Turner coming in at -143 and Kaue Fernandez at +123. This one is one that I have been going back and forth on. On the Turner side, like, he's a good striker, pressure, rangy, pretty good volume, knees, good power, long straights. He's a pretty good grappler, pretty good ground and pound, not the best takedown defense, and he does work back to his feet if he's taken down. And then on the Fernandez side, like, good striker, nasty leg kicks, good kicks in general, works the jab, boxing combos. He's comfortable fighting off the back foot. This is a Jalin Turner fight, so, like, I'm expecting some violence in this one. And, Kaue Fernandez, like, I've had some good success backing him, especially as an underdog, cash with him against Guram Kutaladze, and also cashed with, or he wasn't an underdog in his last fight, but I also bet him against Harry Hardwick. And yeah, on the Turner side, I backed him as well in his last fight against Barboza. Before that, I had bet against him and cashed with Ignacio Bahamondes, and Jalin Turner had retired after that fight and then came back about a year later and then ended up knocking out Barboza in the first round. So, there's always been red flags with Turner, like in that Moicano fight, in his third most recent fight, knocks him down, thinks it's a walk-off KO. Then he ends up getting TKO'd, finished in that fight. And yeah, in the Bahamondes fight, that was a weird look in that fight as well. Retires, came back in his last fight, and in his post-fight interview says that he found Jesus, sort of thing, come to Jesus moment, and he seems like a new type of guy, I want to say. So yeah, it's an interesting one. Like, no, Turner has never won a decision in the UFC either. So like, yeah, I do think for him his best chance to win is going to be to get a early finish in this one. And like on the Cowie Fernandez side, like, in the UFC, lost to Mark DeCasey in his first fight by split decision, pretty much kind of got, held and that kind of thing. And then, yeah, knocked out Muhammad Yahya, beat Guram Kutateladze by unanimous decision. And then, won by calf kick TKO against Harry Hardwick. So, like I said, I like Cowie, but I don't know how he stacks up against Jalin Turner. Like, this is definitely going to be the hardest fight of his career. I really like how violent Fernandez is in there. Like, he's mean. Like, he wants to hurt you, which I really like. Not that Turner isn't, but like I said, I like how violent Fernandez is. So, I think he's going to look to obviously get those leg kicks going, chop the trees down. Turner definitely does have, some legs that are a bit on the lankier side. And I think that could work for him. But I could also see he's trying to work those leg kicks, and Turner ends up, stinging him with some good straight shots. So this is an interesting one. I'm kind of on the fence on this one. So in that case, is from our betting angle, it would definitely be a dog or pass situation. If you're wanting to play Turner, I think knockout props KO1, that would definitely be the way to play it. But yeah, this is a tough one. As far as a pick, I'll lean Turner, but as far as a bet, I do believe this would be a dog or pass situation. So we will keep on moving to the co-main event. We have Mackenzie Dern versus Jillian Robertson. We have Mackenzie Dern at minus 205 and Jillian Robertson at plus 172. This is a interesting fight for a few reasons. On the Dern side, decent striker, pressure, got some basic boxing combos. Her striking definitely has been looking better over her last couple fights. She's a little bit more on the hittable side. She is quite durable, though. Very good grappling, sub-arsenal, good top control, good transitions. And then on the Robertson side, like, okay striker. That might even be generous. Honestly, it's like there's not a whole lot there, if we're being honest. She looks to pressure, but, quite limited on the feet. Doesn't really have a whole lot that she can use, and not a whole lot of weapons in general. So throw the 1-2 and, look to kind of pressure you. But outside of that, there's not much. She's also a very good grappler, decent takedowns, attack subs, mainly the arm bar and rear naked choke. She's got good transitions, good top control, and she's also got good ground and pound. Robertson, she only really looks great when she's, getting her way, getting the takedowns going, and she's ending up on top and, working her ground and pound and submission game. But, I think this is a Mackenzie Dern spot here. I'm actually quite confident in it, to be honest. Like, I just think, the UFC really likes having Dern as a champ for a number of reasons. And yeah, I just think she's going to be the better striker in this one and the better grappler in this one. So I don't really see how Robertson gets this one done unless she's getting her takedowns and just winning a bunch of minutes with control time. Oftentimes when you get two grapplers going up against each other, especially at a high level, it ends up turning into a striking match. And, I'm not saying it's going to be striking the whole time, but I think there could be a good portion of this fight that plays out on the feet. And I trust Dern a lot more there. Again, I'm not saying I love Dern striking, but I definitely love it a lot more than I love Robertson striking. And yeah, like I said, Robertson, I just don't really give her much finishing upside in this one. Like, I don't think she's submitting Dern. I don't think she's TKOing Dern. I don't think she's winning on the feet against Dern. So it's just like, the only way she wins is like a decision. And, Dern can win a decision or she can finish this fight. And yeah, I just think, even if Robertson's getting her takedowns or getting some takedowns, Dern can reverse, Dern can scramble, Dern can, throw up submissions, use that to reverse. So yeah, I think Dern gets this one done at a pretty high clip. I think Dern money line could be worth a look as a parlay piece potentially. Or Dern by decision at plus 178 could also be worth a look. So yeah, no, I think this is a very favorable matchup for Dern in general. Like, I think if Wei Li comes back to strawweight, I think she can beat either one of these two and make it look relatively easy. But this fight here, very good stylistic fight for Dern. Like I said, I think she's the better striker and the better grappler. So this is going to be a very tough go for Robertson. I do like Robertson. I've bet on her a handful of times. She's been on a streak as of late, but yeah, I just think Dern is going to be too much here, and I think it goes long. I think it's a decision. So yeah, I don't mind that decision prop on Dern. Dern could get a finish. Like I said, I do think she has more finishing upside than Robertson, but I'm going to think this one goes long. So we will move on to our co-main event. Guys, be sure to hit that like, hit that subscribe, turn the notification bell on. Leave me a comment as well. Let me know what you guys think of UFC 330 and what your guys' picks are. We will be coming back tomorrow, Friday. You guys might be seeing this on Friday, but we'll have another episode of 5 MMA bets in just 10 minutes coming out on Friday. Note that we went 5 for 5 last week, had an awesome week, and we'll look to keep that momentum rolling forward. So without any further ado, let's jump right into the main event. We have Islam Makhachev versus Ian Garry. We have Makhachev at minus 335 and Ian Garry at plus 271. This is the fight I am most looking forward to on the card, I would say. I don't know if it'll end up being like the greatest fight, if that makes sense, but like I just am interested to see how it's going to play out. On the Makhachev side, solid striker, good combos, feints. He uses feints really well, striking feints and also like takedown feints. He controls the range. He's got some pretty good kicks, and he's got elite grappling, probably the best grappling in the UFC. Variety of takedowns, great top control. He's position over submission. Like he'll go for a submission to sort of get you to defend that, and then once you do, he'll use that to advance position. Good sub arsenal, good ground and pound, scrambles, great Darce choke. That's definitely his go-to submission. And then on the Garry side, like he's also a solid striker, good combos, mixes up his strikes and targets. He's got good leg kicks, especially that front, side kick to the knee or the oblique kick. He works the jab, and pretty fast jab. He does have the tall man defense a bit as he's backing up. He'll tend to kind of stick his chin up in the air a little bit, which could get him clipped. Hasn't, led to him getting finished up to this point, but he is pretty durable. Solid grappling, can mix in takedowns of his own. Not that I think he's going to do that here, but opportunistic back takes, and he's got pretty good takedown defense. This is a tough one, I do think the line is a little bit wide for this one as well. Likely because I think there's a fairly good chance this one goes to decision. Islam has talked about wanting to finish him, and I think he's going to want to, but just, Ian Garry's style and just, his skills, I think that is going to make it tough for Islam to finish him. He could do, though. I think Islam, subs definitely on the board, or potentially a ground and pound TKO as well. But, if he's going to finish him, I likely see Islam getting a sub. Like I mentioned earlier, like I think, Ian Garry's side kicks to the knee could cause Islam some issues. But I think Islam is going to be able to close the distance and implement his grappling. Garry does have pretty good like takedown defense, but he oftentimes, like against in the Shavkat fight, he ends up getting pinned against the cage. It ends up losing minutes there. And Islam is very good at the cage grappling as well. And yeah, as I said, Ian, lost a lot of minutes in that Shavkat fight. And, it was a close fight. Like he was winning on the feet, but then he ends up, getting pinned against the cage, ends up getting taken down. And I just think, Islam's the best grappler in the UFC, and he's just going to be a lot stronger than Garry as well. Because I think the line's a bit wide. I think it plays out close. I think this is probably the hardest fight or one of them for Islam, but yeah, it's hard to pick against Islam here. Like I said, I think Garry's going to give him a run for his money. I just think that because Islam's going to be, moving forward the whole time and pretty much, and Ian's kind of on that back foot, kind of that point striking kind of style, it's just going to be tough for him here. He's going to have to land so much more volume because Islam gets one takedown, starts working his game, starts landing that ground and pound, and I just think it's going to be tough. the welterweight division right now, like I said, I think Gary's probably one of the toughest matchups, but he doesn't have a whole lot of finishing upside here, and that's what makes it tough for me to pick him here, just because, his only real path to win is winning that decision. And Islam's very well rounded, very smart fighter, very good cardio, and he's no slouch in the striking either. I think he can land some good straight shots on Ian. He's very good in the clinch too. Islam's got some really good clinch knees. So yeah, I think with the combination of cage pushing, grappling, and submissions, ground and pound, that kind of stuff, I just think Islam's going to find a way to get this one done, either by decision or by submission. As far as a bet on this one, could look at Islam by decision at plus 163, or also a same game parlay, the over 2.5 and Islam money line at minus 140. I also don't mind that as an angle as well. So that does it for the main event breakdown. So we will move on to the next segment, my fighter to watch and my fight to watch. In this one, my fighter to watch, I'm going to go with Esteban Ribovics. Obviously this is a pretty favorable matchup for him here, but him coming off a loss in his last one to Gamrot, I think he's going to want to get that sour taste in his mouth and come and show, all the fans watching that he's a very entertaining fighter to watch, and that, he's here to put on a show. This guy, his fight on UFC Noche against Daniel Zellhuber was an absolute war. And yeah, I think he's a really fun fighter to watch. And I think he is going to come out here and put on a very entertaining fight. And that's going to end with him getting a knockout. So for my fighter to watch, give me Esteban Ribovics. And for my fight to watch, I'm going to go with, that's a tough one. I'm going to go with Kelly Fernandez and Jalin Turner. For as long as this one lasts, if it kind of goes the way I'm thinking, I think it's going to be violence. Again, Kelly could end up winning a decision, but overall, like, it's a Jalin Turner fight. Jalin Turner's going to come out, look for some violence, look to finish this fight. And, obviously kind of has a bit of the quitter tag attached to him. And with him retiring his last fight, there's definitely some question marks around him. But either way, I think this one's going to be a striker's delight. Although both guys do have, some very good grappling, I think we're going to see a lot of striking in this one. More of the boxing attack from Jalin Turner and more of that kickboxing attack from Fernandez. I think this one could be an absolute war. So that will be my fight to watch. So guys, that does it for UFC 330. As I mentioned, 5 MMA bets in just 10 minutes will be coming out on Friday. We will look to keep that momentum rolling. So be sure to hit that like, hit that subscribe, leave me a comment. Let me know what you guys thought of the breakdown and what your thoughts are on UFC 330. A lot of you guys were commenting on the PFL videos and 5 MMA bets in just 10 minutes. So I really appreciate all the support. The comments really help get my videos out there. And I've really been enjoying interacting with you guys. So yeah, go ahead and please keep leaving me comments. Let me know in the comments what your picks are, what your fighter to watch is, and what your fight of the night is. And yeah, thank you guys so much for all your support. And we'll see you guys on 5 MMA bets in just 10 minutes coming out on Friday. See ya.